Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another lecture. In today's class, we are going to cover the topic that is the change management. And most importantly, or to be specific, that we are going to cover the context of the change model, all right? And that is the topic that is frequently tested in exam, right? So, the wherever the scenario is that you're going to bring a change, you're going to bring a new things or new methods or new procedures or anything new, right? Or you're going to do the change. So you need to plan it. You need to plan it, you need to analyze it, and then you have to implement, right? So the context of change model is the model that is used for this purpose. All right. So if I talk about the change management, while managing the change, the most important thing is the stakeholders. All right. Because the change which you are going to bring, all right, that change is already planned, and you know that how you're going to, you're going to bring it. All right. You're going to implement it, but the main thing is that if you want to have a successful change management, you need to ensure that the stakeholders, they are going to change themselves along with the change. Because if you are bringing a new technology, new processes, new methods, new policies, anything new, right? But the stakeholders, they are not adopting it, they are not accepting it, all right, or they are not changing themselves along with the change, then your change is never going to be successful, right? That's the issue, and that is what we need to understand today. That you know you have to ensure that your shareholders or the stakeholders, right? Not the shareholder, your stakeholders, all right? It's the word stakeholders, all right? The stakeholders will accept it, all right? And so, who are basically our stakeholders when we are going to bring the change? These are users, all right. If I talk about some website, technology, new plant, new machinery, new processes, or anything, right? These are your users, internal users, all right. And sometimes our output of one department becomes the input for another department, all right, because in a value chain, in a manufacturing process, one department produce something, all right, and that something, that thing is used in the production of another goods, all right. So in this case also, if you are going to change the processes, method of one department, the output is going to change. And if the output is going to change, it will have an impact on the other department. So, this is how the people of the other department, they will become the stakeholders as well, because they are having an impact on them, right? So your users and the beneficiaries. So the beneficiaries, either you call them users, either you call them beneficiaries, because your customers are also your stakeholders, because if you are going to have a change in your method, website, technology, or any product or features or service level, so these kind of changes, they are going to impact on your customers as well, so they are your stakeholders as well. But the only thing is that, sir, why will they not accept it? What's the issue? Why we are focusing on it, right? And why we are concerned about it? You are saying that in order to have a successful change management, you need to make sure that your stakeholders, they accept the change and they change themselves along with the change, and they adopt it, right? That's what you said, right? But the question is that why will they not accept it? That's the thing you need to understand, that because change is always new and change is always unknown, because you're going to bring something new that they don't know about, because that's the change, right? That's by nature, it's an inherent thing that you don't know anything. For example, if you are going to play a new sport, if you are going to visit a new place, so that is kind of new or unknown feeling that is there in the change, all right. And when it is about the job, it is about the career, it's about daily routine, people resist it. If it's a one-time trip or one-time activity, people try it. But routine thing, they resist, right? Then fear of being replaced. Whenever you bring the change and you go towards modernization, standardization, technological advancement, so your employees always fear this thing, that maybe the technology will replace us. Maybe the new processes, advanced technology, modernization, or automation, they are going to replace us and we will lose our job. So that's why they oppose the change, all right? hassle of learning new things. As we discussed this thing, that you have to provide the trainings and you have to provide them support, guidance, and everything. Not only that, you have to give this thing, they themselves have to put efforts to learn the new things, right? And obviously no one likes to learn new thing. Obviously at certain age, people don't like to learn new thing, and it's by nature as well that people don't want to learn new thing. They are good and comfortable at what they are doing, and it's something built in their mind. Every morning they come, they do their work, and at evening they leave. So that's what they like. But in change, that's opposite. Then coming out of comfort zone and daily routine. So, if you are going to do change, obviously the new things are going to be challenging. They are going to be difficult. They are going to be new. So you have to come out of your comfort zone, right? So they don't like this. All right, many people don't like this. And also your routine nature tasks, they are going to change. They are going to become new. They are going to become, modified. So, fear of not being able to adopt the change. Obviously, there would be some employees who will learn the new techniques, new art, new skill. You would not learn it. All right. What will you do? Obviously you will fire them, but obviously your employee, they will think this in before, that how much chances. For example, if there is a person who is a very old person, obviously in old age things are difficult to adopt, right? So that person would be really feared or scared that I might not be able to learn new things. So what will happen to me? So that fear is going to create a resistance from his side. Then fear of outcome and the errors. They might be scared of making errors and having the wrong outcome, because in start with the new things will go wrong, right? So everyone doesn't like this thing. Everyone is not that open to new things, trying new things, and doing some experiments. So people fear about it. So these are the issues due to which your stakeholders are going to oppose the change, and that is what you need to manage, and that is what you have to take care about. So for that, we have the today's model that is called the context of change model by Belangen of Holy Belangen and Whole Haley. All right. So they have prepared this model context of change for the change manager. For the change manager, if you are going to become a change manager as a business leader, you will manage this thing as well. So you need to use this model. And sir, in what phase we are going to use it? You are going to use it in planning stage, implementation stage, or finalization stage. Which stage are we going to use this model? You are going to use this model at the planning stage, because when you are planning the change, as a change manager, you have to understand the context of the change. All right, we will understand it, how we are going to understand it, how we are going to analyze or evaluate the context of change. But as a change manager, as a business leader, you need to evaluate that this thing in advance, so that you can plan accordingly, so that you can implement it accordingly, and that you can have a final outcome and the result accordingly in a successful way. Are we clear till this thing? Because if we are clear till these things, believe me, the rest of the things are just the headings that you need to understand in order to evaluate the context of change. And that is going to be very easy if you are able to understand this discussion. All right. So now let's move ahead to the context of the change, right? If you want to understand the context of the change, you need to focus on these 10 areas. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you as a change manager, just think that now you are a change manager. So you have to consider these 10 areas in order to understand the context of change, and accordingly then plan how you're going to ensure that your stakeholders will accept the change, and you would be able to implement the change successfully and get the results. All right. So now, number one thing is that you have to understand the scope of the change. So scope means the boundary. All right, that what is the magnitude and the nature of the change. For example, the change is of a small nature, or is it of the huge nature? All right. Minor nature, or is it a major nature? So for minor, we use the word incremental, right? The small changes, not too much ups and downs, not the radical changes into the methodologies or the processes. Just a small swift change. On the other hand, you have the transformational change. That's a major change in which you do the re-engineering of the businesses, go towards the automation. All right, you change the processes altogether. So these are transformational changes. All right, then you need to check that power. The power means the authority of the change manager. Now you need to understand, as a change manager, how much authority do you have? Or maybe if the change manager is someone else, you need to understand that how much authority that person will have. Because if the person does not have the authority, that person will never be able to implement the changes. That person will never be able to successfully bring the change, because if that person doesn't have authority, no one will listen to him. He cannot punish anyone, he cannot reward anyone, he cannot impose anything on anyone. So he will never be able to implement the change successfully, right? So you need to understand that, you know, if the scope is high, the power and authority should also be high, so that, it will match it, and the person who is going to bring the change will be able to bring it. All right, so that's the thing you need to understand. Then the time, obviously time means the duration of the change, in how much time you will bring the change. Are you going to bring the change quickly, all right, rapidly, or you are going to bring the change slowly and gradually? All right, so there are some terminologies. Turn the lever, turning the lever means, as soon as you turn the lever, the change implemented, right? So that is called the quick change. All right, and then, overnight, or the immediate, or slowly and gradually over the period. So that means you have to understand that what is going to be the duration in which you are going to implement the change. If the duration is too short, too the change is too rapid, you need to have good, or more concentration, more focus on the change implementation and the change planning, and the authority should be higher. All right, then preservation means that, obviously, when you are going to do change, when you are going to bring the change, so your current practices or current model, current procedures, current method, or anything that is the existing, right? So there are going to be some good things into your existing methods, procedure, or anything, right? Or anything, software, website, whatever we are going to change, there are going to be some good things into it, right? So if you are going to bring the change, what are the things that you are going to preserve from your old practices? That is called the preservation. So you need to understand, if you are going to preserve very few things, that means that the change is going to be too much, and in a significant amount new for everyone. And if you are going to preserve high amount of things from your old practices, that means that change is going to be a little bit new for them, and that would be easy for them to adopt, right? So that's the thing. Then reason, you have to understand the need and advantages of the change, that what are the needs, why you are why you are implementing the change, right? And what will be the advantage of the change to everyone. All right, employees have to understand this thing, customer have to understand this thing. So if they will be able to understand the need and advantages of the change, only then they will be convinced, or you can justify the change to them. You can justify that, I understand that you have to go through all these things, you have to go through all these things, but there are some advantages, there is a need for this, and you can convince them. If you can convince them, then you can implement a good change. All right, then sir, diversification means, diversification, or whenever we call diversify, it means, different, right? So it means that how many or how much different kind of people you have. All right, so if you have sorry, how frequently, or how rapidly you diversify yourself, you bring the change. So it means that the frequency of the change, the nature and motivation of the stakeholders. So if you are a company, if you are a company who bring the change, or who changes everything, or the processes, procedure, software, activities, very rapidly, very regularly. It's a routine thing that you bring the change every year, every quarter. You bring some change, you bring some new things, you advance, right? You do technological advancement. So if your frequency of change is regular, then the motivation and the nature of the stakeholder, that would be already acceptable for them, because they would know that it's a routine thing, it's a regular thing that you bring the change every quarter, every year. So they will not be too much scared of the change. But if you bring change very very remotely, in like 5 years, 10 years, so if you are going to bring a change like this, if your change frequency is too large, then obviously your stakeholders are going to resist it. Then capacity is simple, that do you have the resources, or how much resources would you need? All right, how much resources would you need to implement this change? They include the human resource, the labor, the employees, everyone, your IT team, because if you are going to bring the change in terms of automation, technological advancement, or any kind of thing that includes the IT. So, do you have the IT team, IT department, or IT expertise? And then the technical resources that are actually relevant, or that are actually going to deal with the change implementation, right? So these, they are going to be maybe the process engineers, the consultant, whatever, the people who are actually going to bring the change. So they are called technical resources. Or maybe one more thing, that if you will bring the change, the processes are going to become advanced, the processes are going to become automated. So do you have the technical resources who would be able to use them? Because if your processes are too advanced, too modern, but you do not have the technical resource who can actually first bring the change and then use it, then it is not going to be helpful for you, right? Then we have the readiness. So the readiness means the mindset of your stakeholders. What kind of mindset do they have? Do they, prefer the change, prefer the advancement, prefer the growth, prefer the betterment? Or if they are of a mindset that no, we don't want to innovate, we don't want to become better, we don't want to grow. So that's the mindset of your stakeholders. You need to understand this, that by nature which mindset they have. And if they are too stringent and too opposing to the change kind of mindset, then you will face difficulties, right? So you have to check the mindset, motivation of the employees or the stakeholders, their motivation to improve and become better. Then we have the capability. So the capability means the self experience. Do you have actually the experience or prior knowledge or prior experience of bringing the change? If it's a transformational change, major change, and you do not have the experience to conduct or bring the change, then you are going to face challenges, right? But if it's a minor change, incremental change, then maybe without experience you might be able to carry out the change. But in case if you do not have the experience, then you need to evaluate this thing. If you do not have, what will you do? The easy solution is that if you do not have something, go and buy it. So if you do not have, appoint the third party consultant. There are many firms, many consultants who actually consult you whenever you are going to bring a change. I remember this thing at my client when they were upgrading their, it's a software, management software. It has HR module, fixed asset module, accounting, finance, you can say finance, FP&A module, every module it has, So they were upgrading their SAP, and there was a proper consultancy taken from a consultancy company, and they were giving them the consultancy that how they are going to bring the change into the system. They will train the employees, guide them, test them, and every kind of things they will do, right? So there are consultants that do these kind of things. So if you do not have expertise in-house or yourself, appoint someone else, right, who is expert into this thing. Then resistance. So the resistance means that how much blockage or restraining force you are going to face. The restraining force, if you are going to face it, you have to deal it with them, right? If you are not able to deal with them, they will never let you to bring the change successfully. So in order to bring the change successfully, you have to deal with them. And how you can deal it? Number one, you can ignore it, them, you can convince them, or you can remove them. So what do I mean by that? For example, if you are facing a oppose, or if you are facing the resistance or blockage from the employees or from any party, right? And you think that they are not that powerful, they are not your key stakeholders. So even if they are not accepting the change, ignore them. You don't need to worry about it, right? But if they are your key stakeholders and you think that we have to make sure that they agree with us and they accept the change, so you have to convince them. And for example, if you have the replacement of those stakeholders, remove these stakeholders who are not agreeing to your change and bring the new one. All right. So these are the three options which you have in order to deal with the oppose, or we would say resistance, which you will see while implementing the change. So I hope that you guys would have understood that while bringing the change, you have to manage the change. All right. Let me do a quick revision for you. So to bring the change, you have to manage the change. And in order to manage the change, you have to make sure that all your stakeholders they accept the change. And to make sure that the stakeholders accept the change, you have to first understand yourself that what is the context of the change. All right. And to understand the context of the change, we have these 10 criteria. All right. And once you will be able to understand them all and you will be able to understand the context of the change in your scenario, then you would be able to plan accordingly so that you can implement and have the result of the change. So in exam, there are few headings that that are frequently tested. Like for example, if I talk about the context of the change, then you would see that in exam, there is high chances that data or information related to few headings that would be very prominent, or you will see this. All right. What they are, I will make the star. Number one, oh, mhm, this, 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 and this. So these are the seven headings that are among these 10 headings more important, right? While understanding the context of the change. So in your exam, if you get that data from the scenario about them, just mention them, right? Make sure that you don't miss them out. All right. So see you all in the next lecture. Till then, take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.